So here's a ridiculous news story that came out from Boing Boing. Apparently, Article 11 and 13, as you guys know, is incredibly draconic. And because of that, people wanted to have certain amendments given to it in order to make it more reasonable. Unfortunately, when the vote to decide if amendments are going to be added or not didn't pass, and it only needed 5 more votes for the amendments to actually be discussed. Well, it turns out that a couple of Swedish MPs allegedly voted the wrong way. They pressed the wrong button. And in the European Union, if you press the wrong button, tough shit. It's a done deal. You can't undo it. What's done is done. There's no more appeal. There's no more recourse. And in a way, it's normal that it's like that because the Parliament, the EU MPs, they're more likely part of a formality. Like they don't actually have any sort of power. If they vote no on something, it's just going to be reintroduced on them to vote it later on. Most people already know how they're going to vote. It's usually the leaders of the parties that just crack the whip. They go and people vote properly. This is why the European Union is frustrated at Britain because they're taking so long and they're bickering about Brexit. Britain is bickering about Brexit because they actually have a democracy there. People actually discuss. There's difference of opinions. The EU is shocked that within Britain, like different parties have different members of different opinions regarding Brexit. That doesn't exist in the European Union. You got the party leader, which informs people how they're going to vote. And if they don't vote the correct way, they get kicked out of the party. So that's why they don't even bother discussing the legislation. They don't even spend time in order to debate the legislation or something like that. No, they just give legislation number and people have two buttons and they vote yes or no. That's literally it. These Swedish MPs apparently voted wrong. I don't buy that shit. I'm a little bit skeptical. I think they were either bought or they made a deal, so they voted the incorrect way, and now they're using this bullshit excuse, probably to remain in good graces with their peers. I don't know if the public, if the voter will buy that. Again, I don't buy it that they voted the wrong way. I think they just voted for their own personal interests, like someone promised them a favor or something like that, which is commonplace in the European Union. In fact, I told you about the news earlier where Germany and France did this deal. It's like you vote for this, for Article 11 and 13, and we vote for the Russian gas pipe. That's how it works. Like these people voted the wrong way. But the thing is, like, if they would have went to talk about the amendments, considering the fact that the number of people who didn't want any amendments was so great, I don't think amendments would have passed. If people wanted amendments, they would have voted for them. And considering like the difference was just 5 people, I don't think it would have been that great. I mean, there was the likely off chance that maybe 1 or 2 amendments would have passed, but I remember in the previous voting run, when was it? November, I believe. Yeah, they also voted for amendments, and the amendments that were reasonable, they didn't pass, and the amendments that made the legislation even more draconic, those passed. So I'm not really excited about the amendments. Like I'm genuinely disappointed, to say the least, that this thing managed to pass this atrocity of a legislation. I genuinely don't know what's going to happen. YouTube hasn't released a statement yet. They just said that the nations who are going to implement this need to be very careful while implementing legislation. So maybe they're going to lobby, individual national governments in order to make the legislation in a way that is compatible and YouTube won't just pull out of Europe, which is a possibility. I mean, they did pull, I believe, Google News from Spain and Germany before. They had like a similar version to link tax back there. Maybe they're going to just expand more into India and just pull away from Europe. Who knows? I don't know. Because the thing is, if you want to develop good upload filters, it's going to cost billions of dollars. And it's also going to cost them billions of dollars if they leave Europe. So the question is, like, do we spend billions of dollars in a lot of effort and risk getting sued, or do we just lose billions of dollars with no effort? It's going to come down to the corporate shareholders and the people that are making the decisions with the numbers. They're going to look at the chances of remaining in Europe, how profitable it is to remain, and how profitable it is to leave. The worst thing about this, though, by the way, is not the thing with YouTube. Worst thing about it is that there's not going to be any competitors to YouTube. Like, YouTube now probably is going to have the entire market. There's no way for an upstarting company, like for example BitChute, to be able to afford upload filters and to be able to afford all of it can't happen. And BitChute, if I'm not mistaken, has a British CEO, right? So it was a British person that came up with the idea. And in the future, it's going to stagnate competition. It's going to make sure that only massive multinational companies are going to be able to reach into this market and tap into it. I was asked by a subscriber, it's like, what happens if the European Union falls? First of all, I don't expect that will happen in the near future, but what's interesting is that if the EU would fall after Article 11 and 13 is put into effect, then the legislation would still be at the national level. This is how it works. The EU first makes the legislation, and then the member states have 1 or 2 years in order to adopt it. So once the legislation is adopted at the national level, then even if the EU falls or something like that, you still have like the law in the particular nation. I generally don't know, honestly, how it's going to be implemented. I don't think anyone knows. We're going to look and see for the final draft. Maybe some nations are going to not implement it at all, though I doubt it. A lot of people ask, like, why did Swedish MPs vote against Article 11 and 13? There were a lot of leftists. If I look at the previous way they voted, I believe almost all Swedish people voted against it. Like almost all of the Swedish MPs voted against Article 11 and 13. The response is quite simple. Sweden might be the social justice capital of the world, but it's also the home of Pirate Bay. Yeah, I mean, the torrent sites, that might be a problem. Fortunately, of course, fortunately, like, the torrents are going to go away. The way torrent websites used to operate is that they would say it's not our problem what's being shared. They were a platform, and they were saying it's like we don't tell users what to upload. We obviously believe that the users are sharing things that are legal. If you have a problem with a specific torrent file, then you're more than welcome to find out who uploaded it and punish that person. More likely than to sue that particular person. And obviously, a lot of companies wouldn't do that because first of all, like, that person would probably use VPNs or stuff like that. So now they will not be able to operate the website, which means that they're probably going to move to Russia or something like that. Like, it still doesn't fix the problem. They'll just move into another country. They will move somewhere else. And even if they don't move, like, Russia has their own torrents and stuff like that. So, like, this is what I'm saying. Like, this legislation doesn't really stop copyright. It's not doing what it's supposed to do, but it does mess with the internet at an astonishingly scary level. And again, it's not about me because I can work around it. Like, I will find a way in order to make this work. The main problem is that it's going to affect the entire way people communicate. I will not be able to reach the same number of people that I'm reaching now. It's very difficult to change ideas and to influence how people think and put forward opinions on the marketplace of ideas if it's going to be made this difficult. And I don't think it's going to stop. I think it's going to be made even more difficult in the future. So yeah, I mean, this is what I had to say. I'm sorry I'm not more cheerful about it. I'm sorry I don't have better news. But, thank you for watching. And if you like my videos, please give me a little tip as a super chat. Probably not going to get them after Article 11 and 13, because I do have the feeling, like I am 100% sure that streaming is going to be taken off. Like you will not be able to stream. So Twitch, live Facebook, Facebook Live, YouTube streaming, all of these things are going to go away because there's no way to put upload filters on them. The only way they can put upload filters if, I guess, if they increase the delay of the stream. So they will add, like, I don't know, a 5-minute lag or something like that. But then you can't interact with the chat anymore. Like, what's the point in streaming? Because if I interact with the chat with 5 minutes of what they used to say, you know, it's going to be horrible. Anyway, I went on a rant again. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you all tomorrow.